I even wore earrings for you guys today. I don't usually do that. Fancy earrings,
Oh, wow,
yeah.
that's nice. I thought of wearing earrings, but my
That's great.
microphone is on the AirPods, so I thought
Nice.
dangly earrings
I
right
know what
next
you
to the.
mean. I know what you mean.
Mhm.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guest this week is doing such a great thing in the world that we are devoting an entire week to her. I know you've heard of her if you've been plant-based for more than a minute. Her name is Victoria Moran. She is just amazing. She writes books, she produces films, she has an academy, and it's called Main Street Vegan Academy. So we are going to be featuring one of her graduates every single day this week, and they're going to be doing a fabulous cooking demo. You've actually met some of her graduates before on the show. I didn't know necessarily they were graduates, but today you're going to meet her first, and then she's going to come back on Sunday and we'll do a wrap up of this whole week. So I think it'll be fun. And thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for coming on, Victoria. I think it's so great that you have an academy. Like, who has an academy that's vegan? Just you.
Well, who is doing a video every single day for 395 days? Just you. That has got to be a Guinness Book of Records thing. So with kudos to your incredible energy, and thanks so much for having me on and featuring the Academy and my wonderful graduates. You know, I have a daughter that I love dearly, and she has told me for a very long time that I will never be a grandmother, but that's okay, because I have 500 Main Street Vegan Academy graduates to date in 31 countries who are out there in the world doing amazing things. And so it's kind of a substitute, and maybe in some ways better, because they're all saving animals and making people healthier and happier.
That's incredible. 500 graduates. I had no idea. And your reach is global because you get people from all over the world, don't you?
Yeah, we've had people from Tanzania, Argentina, Panama, all over Europe, South America, gosh, everywhere, everywhere. Australia, South Africa, that was what I meant to say, because I knew that Argentina was in South America. I really did. And certainly from all across North America, like our wonderful chef who's going to be your featured guest today. And I have the privilege of introducing her. And she is Dr. Stacey Anderson. She is a PhD, and she spends her daytime hours teaching in public health, and at night she is a ferocious vegan foodie. She is also a voiceover actor. Her company is called The Vegan with the Voice, and she specializes in voicing projects for progressive causes, social justice, animal rights, science literacy. And she lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, Marin County. You can see when she comes on her beautiful kitchen with her beautiful forest in the back. And in her work as a vegan coach, and you know, all these coaches are so different. And this is why I'm so honored to be able to be sharing the work of several of them with you this week. For Stacey, she celebrates the inner ethical hedonist as they adopt the vegan lifestyle. She's got 2 cats and a very cool husband, and you can find Stacey at theveganwiththevoice.com or Stacey with an EY Anderson.com. So Stacey, what are you going to cook for us today?
Hi, Victoria. Hi, Chef AJ. Such an honor to be with both of you. Thank you, Victoria. You and I met in the spring of 2018 when I took the introductory vegan, Main Street Vegan Coach and Educator class. And it's just been a really exciting time since then, you know, because you've helped to bring me out as someone who doesn't say, oh yeah, I'm a vegan, but it's okay, you don't have to worry about that. Now I get to say, I'm a vegan and we eat really good food. Like today, I'm going to show you a couple of things. I'm going to show you a tofu stir fry, a tofu scramble for breakfast. Why is everybody thinking, you know, why do I care about making a tofu scramble? Everybody knows how to make a tofu scramble, right? It's really easy. But the reason I chose something so basic is that there are a few little techniques and a few little things that you can do, and timing and whatnot, to make your tofu scramble go from, it's, you know, just a regular breakfast to like this banging, excuse me, tofu scramble. And since it's something that goes by pretty fast, I thought I'd also show you a very easy baked almond feta cheese. All of this stuff is no oil, no added sugar. You can leave the salt out of this stuff if you're not interested in having salt. One of my favorite things to do in addition to or in place of salt is fresh squeezed lemon juice. I make a lot of lemon juice. This is actually from my garden out on the car deck. This is a quart-sized jar that I just filled last month. Actually, almost exactly a month ago. I harvested in December of 2020. And there's this much left in it. So I use a lot of lemon juice. It's good for you. Okay, so enough rambling. Shall I just dive in?
Yeah, and you look great. The kitchen looks great. I'm so excited. And you can swear on my show because there's no kids on today.
Okay, good. Nice to know. Okay, what I thought I'd do with the cheese is, since it requires an overnight rest period, I've got halfway through sitting in the fridge right now, and I thought I'd show you the first half and put that into the place where it would go into the fridge, and you can just assume that overnight has elapsed, and I'll pull out the rest of it and we'll continue on from there. I've already got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. Everybody's already got the recipe that was attached. So very few ingredients. They're all pretty much whole foods. This is almond flour. Bob's Red Mill is a wonderful brand. It's not the only brand, but a super fine almond flour. This is just almonds. This is all going to go into a high-speed blender. So I start with a cup and a half of almond flour. Just ground up almonds is all this stuff is.
Yeah, we had a guest the other day, and they were wondering is there a difference between almond meal and almond flour? And there was a debate on the show. Can you settle it, Stacey? Is there a difference?
Well, I can tell you what I believe to be true about it, which is that this is a half cup. This was a cup. What I believe to be true about the almond flour versus almond meal debate is it's words. It's the same stuff. I don't know if you can see this, but this is very finely ground stuff. It's not obviously as fine as, say, a wheat flour, but it's kind of along the lines of a fine polenta. So really that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a super fine grind, something that doesn't have like pebbles of almonds still in it. So whether you call it meal or flour, you know, it's like tapioca starch is also called tapioca flour. It just, whatever. All right, so there's my cup and a half of almond flour. I'm gonna put a quarter cup of lemon juice. Now this is Meyer Lemons that grew outside. Quarter cup of Meyer lemon juice in there. It doesn't have to be Meyer Lemons. It can be, you know, just the stuff you buy in the bottle at the store. I had to show off some of my beautiful Meyer Lemons. Okay, now I said also a cup and a half a cup plus 3 tablespoons. I'm finding that that's actually a little bit much. A cup and a half a cup of water plus a tad extra will probably do you just fine. So let me get some water.
So Victoria, in your program, is there like a cooking segment for the?
No, we do have Chef Fran Costello, who's absolutely wonderful, the author of Vegan Chocolate. And she's a very cool woman, completely whole food, plant-based, but you know, she's got a little dessert gene in there. She actually made the cake for Rip Esselstyn's wedding. So she does a class for us called The Art of the Food Demo, talking about just what Stacey is doing today, so that when people leave the academy, if Chef AJ invites them onto the show, they're ready to come. But no, we don't do cooking. We do vegan principles and communication principles and business principles. And those people who have the cooking gene, you know, they either bring that with them or get their training elsewhere.
Great.
Yeah, I can give a plug for Chef Fran Costello. She is the master of the most delectable, perfect, beautiful chocolate desserts. Oh my God, she's got a book out. Buy it. It's fantastic. Okay, so there's the almond meal, the lemon juice, the water, 1 clove of garlic. Oh, another thing that I thought I'd talk to you about is soup stock. I also use a lot of soup stock in the things that I make. If you're trying to go oil-free or just prefer not to have kind of heavy feeling of oil, soup stock is always going in my house. And how that happens, I just, anytime I'm sitting here at my cutting board, I save all of the vegetable, oh, that's already very full. I save all of my vegetable trimmings and dump them into a pot and pour some water over it. That garlic skin is going in there. Simmer it up for 10-15 minutes. You got more stock. Strain off all the vegetable particles and you got stock. So I'm going to put 1 clove of garlic all minced up into my cheese.
You can always tell the real cooks with the knife skills.
This was a birthday gift several years ago. This is a Wusthof full tang stainless steel. I love this thing. Wusthof many years ago bought out Henkel's, which was my previous favorite chef's knife. So now I got 2, but my husband decided that I needed a new upgrade. So yay for that. And yeah, I'm kind of a fan of good kitchen knives. Now, I did say somewhere between a half a teaspoon and a teaspoon of salt can go into this too. I'm not a huge salt person. And as I said, if you don't like salt at all, don't put any in. It'll just be really, really mild. Who cares? That's good. So I'm going to go on the small side and put a half a teaspoon of salt in this. And so you notice this is all just going into one blender all at one time. And now comes the loud part. So talk amongst yourselves. Oh, if I can find the gap to this. All right, on it goes. And because I was a little on the stingy side with the water, I am going to have to poke this down and kind of move the, why am I doing that over there? You need to see this. Poke this down and kind of move it around a little bit so that everything gets all blended up nice. The idea is to get this as smooth as you can. It doesn't have to be the consistency of Elmer's school glue. It doesn't have to be that smooth, but get it smooth. Really loud. I'll do that a couple of times. I think this is going to require one more time through. Apologies for that. Here we go. Okay, that's all the noise. Now comes the very technical part. I'm going to put a strainer over a bowl. Very difficult. And I got this piece of cheesecloth that I'm going to put this almond goo into. Cheesecloth is very thin on its own, obviously. So I'm going to triple this up. I'm going to make it basically, I'm going to fold it into thirds so that I've got essentially 3 layers of cheesecloth going inside my strainer there. And
Hey, Stacey, I have a question about the Meyer lemon juice from Barb. She wants to know when you juice it, do you just juice the juice or do you grind up the whole lemon? Because I think that's the thing that Dr. Greger taught people to do, like just
is that right?
pulverize
well,
the whole peeled fruit.
I need to pay more attention to that then, because no, I have been zesting as much lemon zest as I want and then putting that into the freezer for cakes and stuff later. But then no, I've just been juicing the juice and then chucking the rest of the rind. But golly, I'm gonna have to try just, so basically you put the whole thing into something like this and turn it into liquid.
I read it in his book a while back. If anybody remembers what his system was, please type it in the chat and I'll tell Stacey.
I think
that sounds
it doesn't
fantastic.
have
Thank
the
you, Barb.
peel. I think it's the, sort of what you would do if it was an orange. You take the part that you would eat out and blend it.
Okay. All right. Now the cool thing about, I love my Vitamix blender. There are all kinds of, all brands of high-speed blenders that you can use. But the cool thing about these, it's, this is all still really yummy stuff that's stuck in the bottom of this. So I put water in it and I put it on, it's got a self-washing cycle. And I just put fresh filtered water into this and whiz it in the wash cycle. And then I've got basically flavored almond milk that I can turn into a soup base or something later. I'm very much into reusing and repurposing and all that kind of stuff. The reduce, reuse, recycle triangle that we all love to pay attention to. Well, recycle is the end result. That's the end of the cycle there. The first is reduce, try to use as few things as you can, reuse the stuff that you buy. I mean, this bottle of lemon juice, I've actually put my own little label on there, but it began as, I think, a Santa Cruz Organics pure lemon juice bottle. Anyway, yeah, reuse stuff, it's good. So anyway, I've just gathered up my cheesecloth like that, and I'm gonna give it a twist and secure that with a rubber band and plop it back there into my strainer. And this goes in the fridge and it'll just kind of settle out overnight.
That's so cool. Victoria, I want to read a nice comment about you from Nancy. I love Victoria. I have several of her books from back in the day. I used to carry her book, Shelter for the Spirit, in my book selling days. Beautiful person.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you, Nancy.
that?
Thanks for being a book person.
Nancy, I couldn't agree with you more. Victoria is wonderful. Okay, so pretend we've fast forwarded to the following morning. I have taken the cheese out that I had last night, and since I only have one strainer of that size, I just kind of had to make do with what else I had in the kitchen. Now, again, so this is completely oil-free, and I am going to bake this in a little oven-safe bowl. But in order to get my cheese not to stick, I'm going to use a little bit of parchment paper. However, parchment paper, as you're all familiar with, this is a little bit funky already because, hey, I like to reuse things. Parchment paper is something that it's stiff, right? So if you poke it in there, it gets kind of wrinkly. And then, I like nice, smooth looking cheese. And so what I want to do is turn this parchment paper into something softer. This is a trick that a friend of mine back in the 3rd grade taught me. When I was in 3rd grade at Escondido Christian School in North San Diego County, my friend David Dice was making a suggestion for what we could do on craft day one afternoon. And he said, well, we're going to make, this was the 70s, so we weren't quite as politically aware as we are now. He said, we're going to make Indian tapestries. And the teacher brought in a bunch of old paper bags, old grocery bags. And this is what we did with it. We took a piece of paper bag and crumpled it up and rolled it around until it got softer. And now my parchment paper is much softer. And I can lay it in my bowl and take my cheese. And the top part of the cheese is the funny part that was, I don't know if you can see that. It's too bright. But anyway, this was the part that was in the bunched part of the, that the rubber band was around. So that's going to go on the bottom so that the pretty part can be on top. And this is going into a 350-degree oven for 40 minutes. So I'm going to give that 40 minutes of time. Ta-ra! Right. Okay. Well, let's start on the tofu scramble.
Oh, well, how long have you been a vegan, Stacey? And why did you go vegan?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Here I get to confess. I've been a vegan. I think I was vegan before I started owning the label vegan. And it started, excuse me, with taking a class with Chef Eric Tucker of the Millennium Restaurant. It was originally in San Francisco in the Tenderloin District, and he is now owner of the place, and it's over in the Rockbridge District of Oakland. He did a weekend cooking class where one day we all went out to the farmer's market at the Ferry building, and he just kind of created a menu right there on the spot, and we're all kind of tagging along like little ducks following the mother duck. And he gathered up all these beautiful vegetables and wrote up a menu overnight. We convened on his restaurant in the morning and just cooked. And it was so much fun. I had already bought his 2 books, and was having a lot of fun with discovering things like miso. I didn't know what white miso was. And now I use it all the time. And this, I'd have to say, was in, oh gosh, like 2008 or 9, something like that. But then I met Miyoko Schinner because I had bought her Artisan Vegan Cheese book. And I discovered that she, at the time, she's not doing this anymore, but I discovered that at the time she was doing cooking classes, cheese making classes out of her home. Beautiful kitchen that she had. She's no longer living there. She's out at Rancho Nicasio now. Rancho Compasión in Nicasio. But that was just a couple of years later. And yeah, I just kind of moved away from dairy because, like a lot of us, it was cheese that I was having the hardest time, giving up. Why I decided to do it was that, let's face it, I am a hedonist, but Miyoko taught me how to enjoy cheese and all of the wonderful, luscious things that I like to enjoy without being the hypocrite that I knew I was being. Okay. I knew, I used to tell myself, because I've been a vegetarian since 1987. I haven't eaten an animal since 1987. But I kept telling myself, well, I'm not eating the things that the animal has to die for. But really, come on. We know what goes on in factory farms. We know what the cows go through in order for me to have cheese. I mean, for Pete's sake. So I finally just decided that I can't do this anymore. I can't wake up with myself in the morning and think, okay, I love animals. I love cows. They're so nice. And I'm going to go and force them into lives of sexual assault and servitude and incarceration and torture. So I'm a vegan now. And it was a friend of mine in an acting class that he was a vegan, and he heard me talking about food, and he said, "Oh, Stacey, are you a vegan?" And I was like, "No." But then talking to him more, he kind of made me realize, actually, in practice, you are. So why not just call yourself a vegan? So I do. Anyway, right. So I've got a hot pan going on over here. I'm going to have to make soup stock today because this thing is full. I like a lot of onion. Now, the proportions of stuff that I've given you for this recipe today might seem kind of, that's just absurd. I'm going to put this in a pot. The proportions that I've given you might seem kind of over the top, like, oh my God, you want a half a cup of onion and, you want 2 whole cloves of garlic, and what are you thinking? It's just way too much stuff. But I like flavor. I like my food to taste good. I like it to feel good. Mm-hmm. So I am going to have a healthy amount of onion. This might even be more than a half cup. I'm not really sure, but it doesn't matter because onion is delicious. That's quite a big onion.
Stacey, I know you probably can't see the chat, but we have a whole debate going on lemons and Meyer lemons and whether we should use.
Oh, excellent.
But Meyer lemons are so much sweeter that I think it's probably okay if you use the pith. I don't think it's as bitter as the regular lemon.
They are. They're smaller. They're sweeter. Mine, they're not sweet. They're sweeter. I couldn't just take one of these lemons and peel it and pop it in my mouth without going. So, but yeah.
So Stacey, we have somebody watching with a nut allergy and wanted to know if you could use a different kind of flour if you have a nut allergy.
Oh yeah, I don't see why not. Are you allergic to soy? Well, if so, the tofu scramble is not going to do you any good, is it? soy flour, give it a shot with some pea protein, and maybe some chickpea flour.
Oh,
Give it, this cooking, the fun thing about cooking is that there is a boatload of science behind what you're doing, but you don't actually have to know all that much about it. Cooking is forgiving. So you make a pea protein and chickpea flour cheese and it turns out rubbish. Oh, well, the world's not going to fall apart. You just, put it on the compost pile and start again with something else. But yeah, I'd start with chickpeas. That sounds fun. All right, so what's happening in this pan is the onions are starting to turn brown around the edges, which is going to give it a delicious, sweet kind of, I'm a hedonist. It's going to give it a luscious kind of flavor. That browning is called the Maillard reaction. And the Maillard reaction was named for a French chemist by the name of, what was his name? Louis Camille Maillard, who was the first, at least the first recorded one in the West, to describe the thermolytic chemical reaction between amino acids and sugars in food. Chickpeas, that sounds fun. Chickpeas, yeah, give it a shot. Okay. So then my onions are turning kind of brown. They're getting kind of nice. What I want to do here, I like a fair amount of liquid, a fair amount of moisture in my food. A dry tofu scramble, it's just crumbly and it's kind of boring. So part of what I'm doing here today is timing the food and using techniques that will maximize the liquid inherent in my food. So these are a couple of button mushrooms that once my onions have gone kind of nice and brown, they're getting translucent, they're browning around the edges. Once they get a little browner than that, I'm going to try to keep the liquid going. Now, mushrooms, as I'm sure you all know, you get this great big beautiful mushroom and you cook it down and it gets really small like that. I mean, it's almost like spinach. Mushrooms have an awful lot of liquid in them. So I'm going to put them in the pan, kind of poke them around and let them come into contact with the hot surface, and they will start to give up their liquid. I think most people cook with oil to keep stuff kind of moving around in the pan. I mean, yes, it makes things crispy and there's that, fatty kind of thing that especially people who eat the standard American diet are used to. But, oil for me is, if you're using it just to keep the food from being too dry and being boring and all of that kind of stuff, use the natural liquids in the foods. Don't work against the foods, work with your foods. Let your foods kind of do what they want to do in the pan. And you can probably glean from my cooking style that I'm kind of a hands-on cook. I like to pick things up. You can't do this if you've got hot oil spattering around in a pan. I'm just flipping over a few of my mushrooms and making sure that they are getting into contact with that nice hot surface. Okay, so the mushrooms are going to do their thing. I'm going to start slicing up this Roma tomato.
Hey, Stacey, Carrie wants to know, when you make your vegetable broth, are there any scraps that you exclude?
Excellent question. Yes. It's generally, now I'll start by saying the things that I really can't get enough of, or I can't have too much of. Onion skins, yellow onion skins, yellow and white onions. You get red onion skins, your broth is going to get kind of red, which, maybe you want that. Garlic skins, I love garlic skins. This has a lot of cabbage leaves, some carrot stalks, some chili skins, chili tops, broccoli skins, things like that. Those you can't really have too much of unless you don't like cruciferous that much, because then your cabbage will get a little too much. What you don't want is something that's going to really overpower the broth to the detriment of all of the other wonderful flavors that you've got going in there. I tend to be pretty light-handed with things like cilantro stems. Actually, I end up just cooking cilantro stems most of the time in with my scrambles and stuff. But yeah, things that have really powerful flavors. You don't want to do overdo on things like rosemary. Beets, if you peel your beets, again, unless you want red stalk, stay away from that. You know, yellow beets are okay. You know, they're, if you're going for color, yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't do like mint stalks, things like that. You know, just stay away from the stuff that just has such an overpowering flavor that it's really going to change your basic vegetable stock. All right, so my mushrooms are looking pretty good. They are turning brown themselves. I don't know if you can see that, but there is a nicely brown little mushroom there. Those are looking pretty good. And they're already starting to dry out themselves a little bit. So now I'm going to put in my next wet thing, which is the tomatoes. Tomatoes are going in there. So notice what I'm doing is just keeping the moisture going by adding these things at different times, but I'm not adding them all at the same time also because mushrooms need some room in the pan. They can't be crowded around by a whole bunch of other wet stuff. Let your mushrooms release their own liquids and cook down in them, let them brown. Then they become nice and chewy. They have a good, you know, toothy texture to them when you do them that way. So if I were to just chuck all this in at the same time, the mushrooms wouldn't really have a chance to release their liquids on their own and become that nice, chewy kind of toothy thing. All right, so that's my tomatoes. I got another couple of things of garlic here, another couple of cloves of garlic that I'm gonna put in. And I don't know about y'all, but I eat a lot of spicy food. I love spicy food. So Serrano chili, I thought I'd be nice to you and just put one in. I typically go for more than that. And a note, if you like just a hint of chili, but it gets a little too much for you. Oh, this is another one that you may not want to put chili seeds into your soup stock. Don't do that. If you want to have the hint of chili in there, but not have all of the heat, pour out the insides like that. Just take your knife and take your knife and cut along there and get rid of those seeds. Okay, so there's my chilies and my garlic. I'm just gonna mince all this stuff up together.
So tell me about your voiceover work. I'm so interested in that.
Well, I just learned something very exciting the other day. Mail has been very, very slow, and I just got a holiday card that a friend of mine who lives up in the Puget Sound area wrote. So she and I rode the commuter bus into the Parnassus campus at UCSF together for a number of years and struck up a really nice friendship. My tomatoes are getting kind of sloppy and so like that, so that's nice. So the garlic and chilies are going to go in there, and now is a good time to put in, sorry, I'll get back to the voiceover work in a minute. Now is a good time to put in my tablespoon of lemon juice. Where's the lid to this? I'll find it later. Let's see, let's also have, there it is. Let's also have a couple of tablespoons of the vegetable stock. Okay, a friend of mine just wrote her first novel. And it doesn't have anything to do with social progressive issues. It doesn't have anything to do with veganism, but it's my friend's first novel. It's a fictionalized history of Degas, the Impressionist painter, and his time in New Orleans. She did her university studies many, many years ago at Tulane in New Orleans. And she's been a fan of that ever since. And she wrote a novel based on Degas' time in New Orleans. And she sent me her holiday card and told me about it. And I just picked it up from my local bookstore yesterday. So I'm going to be reading that, and I have volunteered to voice over that for her. Long form voiceover is what I prefer to do. Since I am a professor at UCSF, medical narration is kind of an obvious choice. But I'm also very interested in using what talents I do have. Cooking, I call myself a food-based activist. Feeding people delicious vegan foods is kind of my main form of vegan activism. I want to use this voice and the training, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. The training I have as an actor to promote the kind of causes that I like as well. So I can MC events, I can narrate books that are relevant to the vegan movement, so on and so forth.
Nice. And what kind of doctor?
My PhD is in psychology. Oh, I didn't want this. Okay, this is to the point where everything's pretty much caramelizing together, looking lovely. And I'm going to take this tofu. Got a funny story about Wildwood. This is Wildwood Natural Foods. They're down in SoCal somewhere now and have been for years. But I did my undergrad in Santa Cruz, at UC Santa Cruz in the 80s, in the late 80s. And I did not have, the silver spoon and all that kind of stuff. So I worked my way through school. And Wildwood was a small little independent company in Santa Cruz. It was based in this corrugated aluminum warehouse on the east side of town. And I got hired there as a tofu maker. So I like to say that I put myself through college as a professional tofu maker. Here's another little funny thing that I don't know if this is a quirk that is just me or if a lot of people do this, but when I open my package of tofu, there's a little whey in the bottom of it. I like to save that. I like just, it's only a tablespoon or two. It's like 2 tablespoons of whey, but I like to save it because it tastes good and you can put it in a stock. In fact, instead of using my veg stock, if I need more, I'm going to use the whey for my tofu. So this is ready for the tofu. And where did I put my knife? Here it is. No, where's my knife? Here it is. Okay. About that much tofu. This is probably around 5 ounces of tofu. Now, what I'm going to do with it is just pinch it with my finger and thumbs like that. That'll give it the kind of scrambled quality without, being uniform cubes of tofu, that kind of thing. I just kind of crumble it in there. And it's fun, it makes you feel like a little kid playing patty cake. All right, and the turmeric, I think I said around what, a half a teaspoon of turmeric or something like that. That's probably good. And let me tell you about kala namak. This is also known as Himalayan black salt, which it's not black, it's pink. But I believe that when it's harvested or when it's found, it's black, and then you crack it open and it's pink on the inside. In any case, it's different from regular table salt or kosher salt in as much as it is very sulfury. So especially if you're making a dish like this for a newly converted vegan or someone who is a carnivore but is willing to try your stuff, you might want to use kala namak because it has this sulfury, almost eggy quality to it. Little goes a long way. This is a dash spoon. There are actually measured, there are operational definitions for pinch, smidgen, and dash. You're used to seeing the regular tablespoon to teaspoon down to quarter teaspoon. These are pinch, smidgen, and dash. They're fun. It's getting a little dry. I'm going to put the whey in. You can just use more veg stock if you want to.
Question:
That's
what
fine.
to do with the tofu liquid? And I want to just thank Victoria Rodriguez for her super chat donation. Thank you. And she has a question: if you can bake the cheese in the Breville oven.
In the what?
In the Breville. You ever heard of a Breville?
No. What is that?
Breville is a company that makes a lot of appliances, but a lot of times
know
people
that.
buy the one that's the combination air fryer, dehydrator. So it's
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Do it in that. That'd be great. All right. So I have actually turned the heat off on this because it is looking pretty much cooked and flavored. Let me get a bowl.
Sid wants to know if do you know any stores that sell the salt? She's only seen it online.
Yeah, there is a little store near me in the town of San Rafael. It's just called Asian Market. And I can get South Asian foods there. I can get East Asian food, Southeast Asian, so on and so forth. Take a look around at what you've got in terms of your quote ethnic stores. There's a Middle Eastern store called the Jasmine Market that sells it, but yeah, I don't know. It actually probably Whole Foods would have it. I don't believe I've seen it in Trader Joe's, but it's not like I've really gone looking for it in Trader Joe's either. I like to go to my little local quirky places, and the people at Asian Market have just been awesome to me. All right, so my tofu thing is there. I have washed my avocado, okay? The reason I do that, I always buy organic avocados, but wash it anyway, because when you cut through something, you're actually bringing whatever is on the surface of the skin into the stuff that you cut open. So I'm gonna just kind of slice up my avocado a little bit. I think I'd said that you could put this in the pan and fluff it around. You can do that. It doesn't really matter when you add the avocado in, but this is another thing that I like to do, not only to get some fat into the food without having added oils, but also because I'm a native Californian. I love avocados. I grew up on avocados. Used to live right outside an avocado orchard when I was a little girl. And I'd try to climb the avocado trees. Avocado trees aren't the easiest trees to climb. But in any case, so I'm just mashing up the avocado, making a not quite guacamole, just a little avocado mash, and splatting that onto my tofu scramble. So that is about ready. You know what I would like with this? I washed some little salad greens, so I'm gonna have some of those. Put a few salad greens onto the side here. Ooh, that's a lot. And I'm gonna show you what the cheese looks like after it's done in the oven. I've got another bit of it here. This is the finished product. It's a little bit browned around the edges because it is baked. And I can have a little hunk of cheese like that. It's kind of a cross between creamy and crumbly. There's what my cheese looks like. Tis a lovely thing to do. You can either eat it as a hunk like that. It does crumble just like feta, which is a very nice thing. I've made spanakopita with this. It's a lot of fun and utterly satisfying to eat because you know what's in it, you know it's all righteous, you know you made it with your own hands, you know how easy it is, tastes fantastic. I'm gonna wash my hands.
That is just so cool. It almost reminded me of like a baked brie or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really interested in reading. So who was it that asked about a nut allergy and making different?
Kathleen said she has a nut allergy, so wanted to know if she could use
Kathleen, please do. If you give chickpea flour, besan is another name for it. If you give chickpea flour a try or something like that, write in the comments and tell me if it worked, because I'm going to try it too. And maybe we can compare notes because I love that idea. Oh,
and a couple of people suggested cassava flour.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's very fine stuff. And it does tend to get quite sticky in my experience. That'd be fun. That'd be fun to try. I think the reason that I've gone with almond is that almond, it does, I do like the fact that this ends up being crumbly like a feta. A cassava flour is probably going to end up, even when you bake it, it probably will have more of a brie-like texture at the end. Even though this is super fine flour, super fine almond meal, and I've blended it up in my high-speed blender, it's still got a little bit of some ability to crumble up like a nice feta like that. Oh, and my salad greens
That is just so
need
cool.
something.
Stacey,
Again,
a few people watching that just can't have salt. How integral is it to both of these recipes?
it is not. It absolutely is not. The cheese will taste milder. If you bump up the lemon juice in it to give it more kind of zing and more flavor, then you're probably going to have to add more solids as well. There is a vegan lactic acid that I use in some of my cheese making that I believe it's just here. This stuff is from Druid's Grove. I got this online, but this is a vegan lactic acid that, so if you want a tang, an acidic kind of thing going in your cheeses, but you don't want to add the liquid in lemon juice form or in cider vinegar form, then you can use that. And that's just to kind of give, and again, a little goes a long way. But you can sprinkle a little bit of that in there. Put some white pepper in there. It's obviously in a different direction from salt, but it's still going to give it a nice kind of interesting flavor and quality to it. So no, don't worry about the salt. With the tofu, I recommended the kalanamak just for people who want it to be a little bit more egg-like. I'm actually not that big of a fan of eggs, even when I was eating them. But kalanamak is fun stuff to play around with. But again, just bump up the lemon juice. Give yourself a really flavorful stock. Play around with other spices. You can put, if you like spicy, throw in some cayenne pepper. I also love to put cumin in with just about everything I eat. Let's face it, is fantastic. Yeah, beef yourself up on, and I use that word intentionally, beef yourself up on as many spices and herbs and wonderful, delicious things that you like, and make it your own. This recipe that I've given you today is just, this is it's a jumping point. It's a diving board. Yeah. So,
Chef Julia Dunaway, who was on the show recently, says she likes that you didn't use nutritional yeast in your cheese because it sometimes can be overpowering.
Yeah, I love this stuff. I put it on my popcorn, and I do use it. I've got a cheddar sauce that's sitting in my fridge right now. I was pretty heavy-handed with the nutritional yeast, but not everybody likes it, and it can get a little, same old. If you're just doing the simple vegan cheese of, here's your plant-based milk, here's your nutritional yeast, maybe you put a little miso in there and you whip that all up, and then you've got a cheese sauce, or put some tapioca starch in there or whatever. It can get, too routine. One thing that I like to do is shake up my routine. I eat a tofu scramble almost every morning, but this is probably the first time that I'm going to eat this. Well, no, not in this case, because I did actually make a recipe for it. Yeah, I mean, yourself, the flavors that you like. If you don't like nutritional yeast, or you're getting tired of it, don't put it in your cheese. Flavor it with other stuff. The world of plant-based cooking, this is probably the thing that I want you to go away with more than anything else that we've talked about over the last, I don't know, almost an hour. Like I said, I turned vegetarian in 1987. I was in college, and I hated cooking. I grew up in a single parent, working mom household. So I learned to cook for myself really early on. But, my family are from Oklahoma. So it was a lot of meat and potatoes and ham hocks and, all that crap. So I didn't really like cooking that much. But then when I became a vegetarian and I kind of I moved off campus and had to kind of sustain myself as a starving college student, right? So I went to the food co-op across the street from my apartment and started looking around for the cheapest foods. And you know what they were? Brown rice, dried soybeans, dried any kind of beans. And the spices were in bulk and I could get, all these different spices. And that's when I discovered that, oh my God, food is fun. I love food. And this little tower over here is this is 4 tiers of the spices that I use every day. That cupboard that I'm not even going to show you, because if I open it, it's like Mr. Peabody's closet. Everything comes falling out of it, is filled with more spices and herbs and condiments and things like that. Oh yeah, let's not forget about the other condiments, the stuff that stay in the fridge. Balsamic vinegar is a wonderful thing to add, again, in small quantity, to give just enough of a hint of something so that, you might think balsamic vinegar and cheese, but think about it. It's got this kind of musty fermented quality to it. It's a little on the sweet side. It's got some tang to it. Play around with stuff, and like I said at the beginning of this discussion, if it goes bad, oh well, the world's not going to cave in on you. Just, take some notes and start over again. Try something new.
Sorry, Julia. Julia says I was talking about the tofu scramble. Most recipes have a lot of nutritional yeast in the tofu scramble. I like the way she explained how to cook the vegetables to maximize their intensity. Such good cooking skills. And people are saying they'd love more classes with you on cheese making and tofu making. And what kind of greens do you usually eat with your tofu scramble?
Oh, this is a mixture of some arugula and some red leaf lettuce and some baby spinach. I think there's some frizzy in here. Yeah, this was actually just a mix that I got that's something that bums me out about the pandemic, is that I can't just go in with my own bags and my own containers and stick my hand into bulk bins and grab a big thing of greens and stick it into the bags that I already brought with me. Everything's got to be all packaged up and hermetically sealed. So this is actually, I will show you. This kind of hurts my heart, that this is the only way that I can get salad greens these days, in this massive plastic container. But trust, in that reduce, reuse, recycle triangle, I'm going to find a use for this other than just putting it into my recycling bin where it may or may not actually get recycled.
Right. People are asking if, at least before we end, if you could bring the plate of food much, much closer to the
yeah, absolutely. There, let me get the fork out of there so it won't fall down. But yeah, there's the tofu with all the cheese in it. There's big old salad bit. Yeah, and let me pull this back so that you can actually see the tofu has got kind of the yellow eggy kind of look to it. And again, we're vegans. We don't need to fool ourselves into thinking we're eating the ovulations of chickens. But if we've got family members or friends that are like, tofu, I hate tofu, it doesn't taste like anything. Yeah, it does. And I'll show you how.
Nice. Judy says, do you ever use a probiotic powder in cheese recipes? And if so, where do you get it and what kind?
I have used probiotic powders to make yogurt. And I've actually, boy, I've been playing around with all different kinds of yogurts. When I first started making my own yogurt, it was really easy. Nancy's had a soy yogurt, just plain unflavored soy yogurt. And the starter that they used was fantastic. It was tangy. It made a firm yogurt. Well, they stopped making it, or at least I can't get it anymore. So I've been switching around, trying to find other different yogurts. And, once I get a yogurt going, which I do have a couple in there right now, I could just, get some more soy milk and take some of that yogurt and dump it in, and you know how yogurt's made. But I've found that the vegan yogurts that I have access to don't firm up very nicely, and they're made firm at the factory with additives, carrageenan and such, to make it more gelatinous. But that doesn't help me when I'm trying to make my own yogurt from a starter at home. So I did get some probiotic pills from the Good Earth Natural Foods. It's an independent natural food store here in Fairfax. Probably most natural foods places will have it. I'm guessing a place like Whole Foods will probably have it too. Otherwise, online is always a place to go. I discovered something. Now, you're not going to believe this, and I didn't believe it either. But I discovered a video on YouTube, and it was a woman making, she called it soy curd, but not tofu. It was soy yogurt. And she started with soy milk, and she heated it up to, finger warm, basically. I think it's about 110 degrees. And she took the caps off of Serrano chilies. And I'm not, oh, there it is. I almost saw it. Here we go. She took the caps off of 3 Serrano chilies and just put these little caps into the yogurt when it was just coming off the heat. And she let it sit there at room temperature overnight with the caps of the 3 chilies. And she took the bodies of the chilies and cut them about 1/3 of the way down and stuck those into the milk as well. Covered that up, let it sit out overnight in a warm place. Basically, I just let it sit on my stovetop with a bunch of heat wrapped around, bunch of towels wrapped around it. And I came in the morning and the stuff had coagulated with chilies, and it tastes nothing like chilies. There's no heat in it at all. It's not yogurty, it's not tangy. So there's a probiotic thing that is different, but it, well, I'll show you. This is the stuff. And again, this is a Nancy's container back when I used to be able to get it. Again, reuse. This stuff, I mean, look at it. It's so creamy. It's the consistency of yogurt. Now, I use this as a creme fraiche because it doesn't have the typical yogurt tang, but it's one of those things that it didn't come out like I thought it would. I thought I was going to have yogurt, but now I've got this wonderful creme fraiche to make parfaits and stuff with. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, you're just a wonderful presenter, and the food looks amazing. Guys, you're asking where the recipe is. It's in the show notes. So you have to be looking on YouTube to see the show notes. It's right below the video. And we have a comment from Kathleen. Love your necklace. What stone is it? And is there a story behind it?
Oh, thank you. I don't think this is actually anything real. I'm not really sure what it is, but I had a layover in Wellington. I was, oh God, yeah, there is a story behind this. In my day job in public health, I go after the tobacco industry, and I expose the ways that they fight against good tobacco control regulations and tobacco control policy. Well, the tobacco industry is also very much into promoting the worst foods on the planet for you and all that kind of stuff too. So there's a lot of overlap between my interest in big agriculture and animal agriculture and the fighting that I do against the tobacco industry. Anyway, I was invited down to the University of Otago on the South Island in Dunedin to do a week and a half of lecturing, and they have a satellite campus up in Wellington, the capital, on the North Island. So I kind of shuttled between those two places for a week and a half, giving lectures about the tobacco industry and fighting them, and how e-cigarettes were just starting to come on the market at that point. Everyone, was really curious. Some were skeptical. Some were thinking, well, this may be an answer, so on and so forth. So I went down to New Zealand to lecture about that. But it was my first time in New Zealand. I'm in San Francisco, right? So I thought, I can't just go there and lecture for a week and a half. So I tacked on another week and a half and got a rental car and drove around, wrong side of the car, wrong side of the road, for a week and a half and just toured the South Island. Beautiful place. I cannot say enough positive stuff about spending time in the outback of New Zealand. In any case, on my way home, I flew from Dunedin to Wellington, and I was going to go from Wellington to Auckland because Auckland is the international airport, and get back to San Francisco from there. I had a layover in Wellington, so I'm poking around, looking at the duty-free stuff, and there was this lady who had a little cart outside, just kind of in the walkway, and she was selling this really cool stuff. So it came as a necklace and a couple of earrings that I'm not wearing right now, and it had a little pin in the shape of a penguin. And it's my favorite jewelry set to this day. And my watch just went off. So hooray. There's the cheese. That's the freshly baked almond cheese. Yay.
That is so cool. Do you ever serve it warm?
I'm going to do so right now. Excellent. Watch me burn myself on this. Whoa. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's soft. I wish you could see that. That got very soft. I think it's going to be a good idea to let this cool before it, yeah, kind of fell apart. But yeah, it's a good idea to let that cool before you serve it. But see, that's what I mean. Thank you for asking that. I probably would not have thought of it on my own, but you know, quick little experiment, kind of failed, but now I know.
Well, God, you've just been a wonderful presenter. I could see that Victoria taught you well, but of course
She did. She absolutely did. And thank you. It's been a delight. And best of luck and Godspeed to the rest of the Main Street Vegan Academy presenters for the rest of the week. And I will be tuning in to listen to all of them.
And you know what, maybe on Sunday we can have all of you on again. I should have thought of that when Victoria comes. So I'll if all of you guys are free, kind of like a little reunion maybe.
That would be fun.
Great.
That
Well,
would be fun.
thank you so
Actually,
much.
one of the people this week, Jare Cervantes, I believe is her last name now. She was Longacre when I met her, but she was in my cohort in April of 2018 at Main Street Vegan Academy. So she will be one of your presenters later this week. And yeah, I would love to do a little catch up.
Yeah, she's actually on Wednesday, and tomorrow we have
Fantastic.
Diana Goldman on, and Diana was watching live today, and she's going to be making a ginger miso soup with bok choy and tofu,
Oh,
date
yum.
peanut butter bites. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for that wonderful
Will do.
recipe. Well, thanks
Yum.
again, Stacey. You're just a wealth of information, and thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Tune in all
Thanks
week
very
for
much.
recipes from all the graduates of Main Street Vegan Academy, including Victoria Moran, who's not a graduate, she's the founder, but hopefully she'll be on every day to introduce people like Dr. Stacey. Thanks again, Stacey.
Thank you. It's been a blast.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.